we're going to get to my top 3 right now, and then maybe we'll let Lucas talk for a minute. But do you want to show him?
He doesn't do a lot of that. Well, hey there, hobby homesteaders. Welcome back to Peaks Peak. My name's Lucas, and we're sharing our hobbies on 38 acres in eastern Kentucky. And today, I'm back here with Brad on Piney Grove down in Florida because I'm learning a little bit about his expertise of how he has built his dream homestead. And today, we're going to talk about attachments. We shared with you the top pieces of equipment that you would need if you're going to start a homestead. And today, using that #1 piece of equipment, the tractor, we're going to talk about what attachments would be the most useful for you to have on your tractor. So we're going to start out, we're going to walk around his place and show you the different attachments that he has available so you can kind of learn about his experience and what he knows. I'll have him share his top 3 attachment purchases, and then at the end I'll chime in and I'll share the top 3 that I think I would use if I was buying a homestead today. So Brad, thanks for having me, man. I appreciate you having me here.
Well, thanks for coming, and I appreciate you saying expertise. But like we like to say here at Piney Grove, we're not a how-to channel, we're a how-we-do channel, and we're just figuring it out.
I think that's what we all do, man.
Right? I mean, I grew up on a farm, so I know some things about tractors and stuff, but the tractors you use on a 200-acre farm, which we had in Virginia, compared to what you use on a small homestead like this, are different, but they're the same. So let's get into it. I do have a whole bunch of implements we're going to talk about, and then at the end of the video, Lucas and I are going to talk about our top 3 that we would recommend, and we've already been kind of talking about it behind the scenes, and oddly enough, they are different. So I'm one of those guys that feels that those with the most toys win. So the more toys I can have, whether I buy them off a Facebook marketplace or I pay full price for them, or we're fortunate enough being content creators, we occasionally get things sponsored. I just like having a lot of equipment. So we'll start right here in the mega shed with some pretty cool pieces of equipment.
Yeah, listen guys, don't feel bad. He's crushing me too. I don't have near this much equipment, but it's pretty cool to see. All right, so what you got here, Brad?
All right, so in order to bale hay or make hay on your property, you need 3 things, and 2 of them are here. We'll get to the 3rd one in a minute. But we have a hay rake here, and this is a 3-point or a PTO-driven, 3-point PTO-driven belt hay rake. And this rotates this rake and pushes all the hay to one side so that you windrow it, so that you can take this, which is a mini round baler. It makes what Lucas likes to call cute little round bales. And it makes we'll show you one in a minute, but about 2-foot by 3-foot round bales. Real easy to handle and real good for small homesteads that have like goats and chickens that need a small amount of hay, and not that big old 6-foot bale that requires, my tractor might not even be able to lift it.
Right. So this is really kind of an updated system that makes bales comparable to the square bales in a really cool setup. I had never seen a belt rake like this, and I watched it in action, and it's really awesome.
It is.
And then, like he said, he makes some cute little round bales with this.
And that's going to conclude this video. All right, so we're going to walk out here to what we'll call Deb's barn, and I have an overhang portion of that barn, and I have a lot of equipment here. All right, let's start here up under the barn. We'll just talk about all this equipment. Like I said, we're going to get to our top 3, but this is a combination piece of equipment. It's a box blade, and most people are familiar with a box blade, but it's also a land plane, and you adjust this back door here, and that's what either allows dirt to escape out the back, or like a box plane. No, like a box blade. I keep getting confused. When you put that door down, it collects the dirt so you can move it. So interesting piece of equipment. I've used it a couple times. I really love this piece of equipment. This is a 5-foot tiller. I think Lucas runs a 5-foot tiller on his BX. I really like this. It's wide enough to cover the tracks on my tires, and this just puts out a great seed bed. Absolutely love this piece of equipment. But it's not in my top 3. So we'll come over here, and this is just a regular blade to move dirt. And I've used this here on Piney Grove. You can angle the blade to make driveways, but our driveway is made out of what's called asphalt millings, and they kind of congeal back into asphalt, so you don't really grade it. But when the top loose rocks wash into the grass from heavy rainstorms, I can use the edge of this blade to reclaim them. So
you angle it and it'll pull them back out of the grass?
I leave it straight. I have angled it a few times to do a little bit of grading, and it's a wonderful piece of equipment. It's just better with dirt and loose gravel than it is with what we have
gotcha.
here
Okay.
at Piney Grove. This is Summit's land rake and or landscaping rake, I guess it's called. And this is used to just gather debris. Let's say you're doing some land clearing. There's a bunch of sticks out there. In your case, maybe a bunch of rocks, kind of like your rock bucket from Artillion.
Yeah.
And this allows the dirt to go through and traps the bigger material. You can either put it that way so you can back up and push material, or turn it the other way so it collects behind you.
I was just about to ask that because I've seen them turn the other way.
You can also angle it like the blade, and it'll start to push some of the sticks to the side. So cool. I've used this a lot, not this one, but I have another one I've used a lot on a hunting lease where the land was really, really rough and I needed to get up all the sticks. All right, so another essential item on a homestead, but not my top 3 and not my favorite to hook up to a tractor.
No.
This thing, you got to take the top link off. It's just, it's a bear to put on the tractor. So if you're going to dig posts,
you're missing a part, aren't you?
yeah, I keep that inside so people from Kentucky don't walk off with it.
I had plans.
So one thing that I really like about this post hole digger is I bought it with a 12-inch auger, and that allows you to put in 4x4 post, and we use 8-inch fence post out here at Piney Grove. So great piece of equipment. It's got the clutch on it instead of a shear pin, and you've got one now too, and I know you love it.
I've got a 9-inch auger on mine, and it has a shear pin, and I've broken several of them actually. I have on my dresser, I have 3 because I empty them out of my pockets when I'm working.
If you're a watcher of Lucas's channel, he breaks a lot of things. We'll talk about that later. All right, over here we have, I like this. First time I'd use one. This is a hiller. And this basically makes hills in your garden so that you can, we covered ours in plastic and then grew vegetables in them and kept the weeds down. So the hiller was a really nice piece of equipment. Not one you use very much though.
It made a beautiful garden. I was watching Brad. I had just put my garden together and got my video all made up, and then I watched Brad and Deb make their pretty little garden with their mulch, with their fabric in between the rows and their nice hills with their hiller. I was impressed. It
keeps the weeds down, and I don't think that's a very expensive piece of equipment, but it's one of them ones, it's like most equipment, right? You can get away with 1 or 2 things. You can probably do a lot with your tractor bucket. But when you have something like this, you're like, wow, that was worth the $250 or whatever I spent on it. So let's talk a little bit about tillage equipment. We have a disc harrow, and it's like the tiller where it cuts dirt and basically thrashes weeds and stuff like that, and allows you to prepare a seed bed. It just doesn't prepare as smooth a seed bed. It's a rougher tillage device. And we don't own one, but we borrowed it from our neighbor. But I like a 2-bottom plow once in a while to turn the land over and take all of the organic matter that's up on the top and kind of put it down 4 or 6 inches, and just kind of give some place for the roots to get nutrients in the future when you're doing future planting. But so we have 2 disc harrows out here, one sponsored by Summit and one that I rebuilt myself. I really love a disc harrow, not my top 3, but I love it because it's one of those, you don't have to think about it when you're using it. You just drop the 3-point hitch and just go as fast as you can.
Now, you put out a really cool food plot this year, like what, beans?
Iron clay peas.
Yeah, okay, and we just drove past it. It looks awesome. How did you till that ground?
So what I did with that was the ground, we brush hogged it, so it was grown up with the winter crop. We brush hogged it, and then we threw the seed on top of the ground. Then we hooked up to this disc with the Summit 25 horsepower tractor. And one pass went over it. The dirt covered the peas, and we have 1 acre of 12-foot long pea vines.
And it turned out fantastic. I was pretty sure that that's what he used to kind of cover that seed over. So that's pretty cool.
So over there we have our standard box blade. We've got another one that we'll talk about. And if we're talking about implements or attachments, are we talking about what we'd put on the front loader as well? Or
well,
we just talking about what goes
any
behind?
kind of attachments you're going to use on your tractor.
Well, then while we're here, let's talk over here.
Okay.
All right, so here we have an attachment that this year is the first year I've used one. It's absolutely essential. And again, is it an attachment or an implement? I've looked it up on Google, and Google doesn't really care what you call it. No. But there's a lot of people in the comments that are probably going to say that's not an attachment, that's an implement. So I'm going to call it an attachment. Correct me if I'm wrong down in the comments.
Correct him.
But
we'll leave that to you guys.
Lucas been correcting me behind the camera all day. But so a grapple. A grapple is such an important tool on a farm or a homestead. If you're moving logs, Lucas has a sawmill having a grapple it's night and day. I was taking and cutting trees down and putting them in the bucket of my tractor.
Yeah.
And then if I made the wrong move with the tractor, it would dump out of the bucket. This thing is a game changer. But again, it's not in my top 3.
Yeah, so I will tell you, this is another one of those attachments that when you get it, you're gonna say, how did I live without it? Because it's awesome. Now you can get by without it, but I got that Artillion rock bucket with the grapple attachment that goes on it, and it just opened up a whole new world of possibilities.
So while we're talking about attachments or implements, you'll notice that I have the loader off of the Kubota and I have the loader on the Summit. And the reason is, well, one, because it's a removable loader, both of them are. So that's one thing. If you're looking at tractors, I would recommend a removable loader, but I can get in tighter spots with this. I've got this set up with a forestry mulcher, and I've been doing some mulching around the property. And by not having that extra 3 or 4 feet here off the front of the tractor, I can just get in closer to the edges. I don't want to skin up my trees, so I don't have to be as conscious with the front of my tractor. Right. So if we're talking about implements and attachments, you know, I think loader would be number 1, but we're really talking about rear attachments.
That's true.
Today.
We make some assumptions here, and one of those is when you buy a tractor that you're going to buy it with a loader, because I can't think of very many reasons not to. You're going to need a loader for so many things, but I kind of take that as a foregone conclusion because it really should just be automatic on your tractor.
And we know a lot of content creators, and you and I are one of, or only 2 of the many out there that remove our loader a lot. Like
right.
Most people, like Brock, has never removed his loader, and he said he doesn't have a need to, but you and I are always taking ours off.
I have a lot of people ask me why I ever take the loader off when I mow, but I'm mowing around my house and cars and all the things that I don't want to hit. So it's just easy to take off.
All right, guys, we're going to get to my top 3 right now, and then maybe we'll let Lucas talk for a minute. But do you want to show him?
He doesn't do a lot of that.
So let's show this mower here, and then also the hay bales behind it.
Yeah.
So we talked about 3 pieces of equipment you need to make hay. This is the mower. This is a drum mower. We've also used a sickle bar mower. Yeah. I'd like to get a sickle bar mower in the future to mow around the pond, but as part of our equipment package from Tractor Tools Direct, we have a drum mower, and that's how we baled our hay.
This whole system is Ibex, right?
It's all pieces. Ibex equipment, and it's all worked flawlessly. I mean, I've got a video on every piece of equipment if you want to check out my channel. And this is the size of hay bale.
See, isn't that cute?
It's cute, but here's the thing. I'm a little bit older than Lucas, and I've got issues. But I can pick this up and I can throw this over a fence to feed animals, and I don't need a tractor to deal with it. And to me, this is the perfect size because I don't need equipment to move my hay bales.
Right. And now it all depends on the size of your homestead and how many animals you're going to have. I mean, if you're running 30 head of cattle, then you're not going to be feeding these bales. But if you've got 3 or 4 goats and, you know, that sort of thing, which a lot of us hobby homesteaders, that's what we're doing. These are perfect for that.
All right, this is the filet mignon of the video, I guess. So I'll call it. This is my number 1.
Speaking of filet mignon, Brock offered me a steak when I went to his place. Yeah?
I got a ham sandwich. I got some deer sausage. All right, so my number 1 piece of equipment that I find is most valuable for me because I'm doing a lot of brush cutting, and you know I do a lot of mowing, so is the brush hog. And because of that, I have 3 of them. And
I don't think you have to have 3 of them.
I think that every homestead should have 3 brush hogs, and if you don't, you got to call yourself something else.
This is him just trying to win.
So 3 brush hogs. I'm not going to get into the total history, but this one I've had for like 16 years or so, totally rebuilt. That one came with the tractor I bought from a friend, and I bought that one to be my nice one. And it's so nice it never gets used. It just sits back there.
Everybody needs a nice brush hog.
So my wife is saying I need to get down to 1 brush hog, and that's all you need is 1. But I would say number 1, if you want to keep a neat property, if you're just things are always growing. Yeah. Nature is always trying to reclaim anything that you clear. And I think a brush hog would be my number 1 piece of equipment. Yeah,
that's the thing. There's a lot of times, of course, you know, you were building your homestead and not living here. So you would have to be away for the week and then come back on the weekends and work. A lot of things change in a week, or sometimes you don't get to mow every weekend when you're here. When it starts to get away from you, a mower is going to struggle to catch back up. but you can bush hog almost anything.
Yeah, and you keep the blade sharp, and it's not exactly the same as a finish mower or zero turn, but it's close enough.
Yeah.
All right, so we're standing right here. We're going to go ahead with my number. It's in my top 3. Is it number 2 or number 3? I'm not sure. But this dump trailer, I was so excited about. When we entered our partnership with Summit Tractors, the one thing I asked the CEO was, am I getting that dump trailer? And he said, certainly. And we use this thing so much. We have different dirt pits around the property. We're on about a 5-degree slope here, so whenever we build something like this building that we're standing in now, we're always moving dirt. And we have moved, well, it holds 1.5 tons, and I think we moved 30 or 40 loads for the last pole barn we built. We filled it full of wood chips, which will lead into my next piece of equipment. But we filled it full of wood chips. We filled it full of brush. When I was moving clearing some land, I was taking just big old piles of brush with the excavator and putting in here. And it works off of the remote on the back of the tractor. And it also has a hand pump, so I can have it behind the Summit tractor, which has a rear remote, or I can have it behind the Hyson Sector 750. And then to dump it, I just take this handle, pump it up and down about 10 times, and you've dumped it. And really, really love this. This allows me to do so many things.
I can definitely see the benefits of having one of those. It's a really cool piece of equipment.
All right, we'll talk about another attachment or implement that I have, and that's a finish mower. I've got a 6-foot finish mower for the Kubota 39 horsepower tractor, and I've got a 5-foot finish mower for the 25 horsepower Summit tractor. And these do a fabulous job when your grass is a little shorter and you can take big acreage and make it look like a lawn.
Yeah.
And I love these pieces of equipment. I love how they make things look, but they didn't make my top 3. So let's come over here and talk about the last piece of equipment that rounds out my top 3, and then we'll let Lucas close out the video with his top 3.
All right.
So I'm standing next to, definitely in my top 3, I would say brush hog 1, wood chipper number 2, and that dump wagon or dump cart number 3. Everything we have is useful and used, but if I've got to rank order things and I don't have to include the tractor loader, that's my top 3. And now Lucas has a wood chipper out on Peaks Peak, and when I bought this, we are not sponsored by Wood Max, just impressed. We bought this off of Facebook Marketplace. It only had a few hours on it. I've got close to 100 hours of it, of my own, of wood chipping. Absolutely love this piece of equipment. When you have a piece of property like ours that's heavily wooded and you don't want to burn, because burning is time intensive, or it just burns up a lot of your time watching that fire, and we certainly don't want fire to spread, right? We don't
burns up your time. I see what you did there.
Yeah, you like that? See what I did there? But it burns up your time, but it also could burn up your neighbor's homestead, and who wants that, right? So with this, I not only can make wood chips, and those wood chips will decompose wherever I would drop them, or I put them in the dump trailer and put them in my garden to help improve my soil. And we're already growing watermelons that my wife can't lift. I can barely lift them. I put it in her hands the other day and almost dropped her to her knees.
I saw a picture of that huge one. That was awesome.
Huge watermelon. So, so why is this wood chipper special compared to other ones you see out there? This has a hydraulic infeed, and I think I have 6 videos on this. You simply put the piece of log or whatever here, pull this towards you, and it sucks it in with that hydraulic infeed, and it makes wood chipping fun, I guess.
That hydraulic infeed, I'm sure, is a game changer, because that's the one part that's labor intensive on my wood chipper, is that I'm always trying to fight the limbs to get them to feed in there. As long as you get, a nice straight limb and you feed it in, it'll pull itself in just fine. But as soon as it hits a jag or something turning the other direction, you've got to find a way to push it in. And I've had people in the comments getting on me for reaching down in there and pushing limbs in. You got to find a push stick or something like that. So this system would be awesome.
So this looks like I'm way in the wood chipper, but this is still very safe because it's way down there.
Right.
But it looks from that angle like I'm being pulled in, doesn't it?
And that's the thing about mine, is it has a curtain in there that I can't even reach, and then the chipping mechanism is over a foot past that.
Yeah.
So you would have to slip and dive head first into it to actually get pulled into it. All right, guys, so you can tell what shaped Brad's 3 choices in implements, and that is the type of land that he has. And so that's kind of going to be the answer for all of us. But in Brad's case, he was clearing really thick land, and I mean thick Florida land. So he has a lot of trees to take out. He has a lot of mulching to do, and that's why he made the choices he did, and I think they make perfect sense. My top 3 is different. My number 1 choice actually is the same, and that's a bush hog. And I think that probably should be true for almost everyone. When you buy new property that's not been maintained, you need a bush hog, because you can cut stuff up to 1.5 inches, 2 inches around. So you can make a trail anywhere with a bush hog. You can kind of get started clearing your land with a bush hog. I think that's your number 1 implement for sure. Now, what has shaped my choices is the type of land that I have, and that is in eastern Kentucky. We have really big hills, we have lots of drainage issues, and my property especially had all kinds of water issues. My barn flooded all the time. So my number 2 implement is the box blade, because I have to keep my trail going up Peaks Peak cleaned up and smooth so that we can get up and down it. And I use the box blade for that. It seems to make pretty quick work of it. I really like how that works. It's kind of the most efficient. Now, I'm not saying that it's better than a land plane, because I don't have that experience, but the box blade has worked well for me for that. So I maintain that hillside with the box blade. And my final implement that I would choose is the backhoe. I got the BX23S because it had the backhoe attachment, and I needed to dig drainage ditches. On top of that, when we were laying out our infrastructure for the whole homestead, we've put in plumbing, electrical for several other buildings. We added a place for my son to live, so we put in a water main for him, and it's just been invaluable to have a way to dig trenches and do all of those things. So the backhoe attachment on the BX was the most affordable way I could do that. Brad's option is the excavator. So yeah, if you could choose an excavator, that would be wonderful. But for most of us, we're gonna have to find a more economical route, and so that's why number 3 on my list is the backhoe.
Well, I think that's a great list, and I think it shows that everyone has to go out there and put a lot of thought into this, because not only are tractors not cheap, but implements aren't cheap.
Right.
I don't know what a brush hog costs right now, but I know I see some used ones on Facebook Marketplace for like $2,000.
Yep.
And so that means new, they're $3,000 or so. Things have just skyrocketed in price. So if you're limited with a budget, you need to dig a lot. Backhoe makes sense.
Yeah.
I buy a lot of used stuff. If it's not sponsored, I'm generally on Facebook Marketplace buying it.
Right.
And that way I also don't feel so bad when I wreck it a little bit, right?
Right.
Because it wasn't brand new.
Well, that's it. You get a brand new piece of equipment, it doesn't matter. It's going to look used really quick when you get it out on your homestead. Sure. I bought a brand new bush hog when I bought my tractor, because I could buy it all in one package deal. And my new bush hog is beat and bent all to pieces because we use it.
Yeah, it gives it character, right?
Right. Well, guys, listen, I hope you enjoyed today's video, getting to hear the expert opinion on what the top implements are for your homestead. We had a great time here, Brad. I appreciate you having us. Until next time, get outside and enjoy God's creation, because it's beautiful out here.
And don't forget, tractor hard.